In the dying light of his empire, Marcus Aurelius sat alone, pen in hand. He wasn't thinking about battle's glory or power, but about how easily humans lose what they value most, their wealth. Wealth is not the coins in your hand, he wrote, but the mastery of your desires. For Marcus, fortune was never gold or silver, it was self-control. Centuries before the stock market, he already understood the psychology of greed. He warned, a man's worth is no greater than the worth of his ambitions. Seneca echoed, wealth consists not in having great possessions, but in having few wants. And Epictetus reminded us, it is not what happens to you, but how you react to it that matters. Yet here we are, 2,000 years later, still prisoners of the same illusions, still chasing comfort while losing freedom. The Romans built empires and lost them to excess. We build our lives and lose them to consumption. Marcus Aurelius' voice still whispers through time, you become what you give your attention to. And today that warning might just save your fortune and your soul. Part 1, Living for Appearances. In the fading light of his empire, Marcus Aurelius sat alone, pen in hand. He wasn't thinking about battles, glory, or power, but about how easily humans lose what they value most, their wealth. Wealth is not the coins in your hand, he wrote, but the mastery of your desires. To Marcus, fortune was never measured in gold or silver. It was measured in self-control. From his palace, he could see the Roman markets glittering below merchants, shouting senators, boasting people chasing admiration more than purpose. He saw men buying things they didn't need to impress people they didn't respect. And even as emperor, he knew the same trap waited for him. 2,000 years later, that same illusion still rules us. The marble of Rome has become the glass of shopping malls, and our applause comes in likes and followers. We no longer buy to survive, we buy to be seen. We live not by truth, but by image. In a world where perception has become currency, authenticity is now the rarest form of wealth. A 2023 study by LendingTree found that 38% of Americans admit to going into debt just to impress others, not to live, not to invest, but to impress. The same tragedy Marcus watched unfold among the senators of Rome is playing out in our cities, our feeds, and our minds. He once wrote, if it is not right, do not do it. If it is not true, do not say it. Yet today we do what is false and buy what is empty, hoping it will fill the space where purpose should live. The Stoics saw wealth as utility, not vanity. Seneca warned, you act like mortals in all that you fear, and like immortals in all that you desire. We fear losing what we don't even need, and we crave what will never last. Modern psychology calls this the hedonic treadmill. You buy the new car, the phone, the designer label, and for a moment your happiness rises, then it falls again. The craving returns. You run faster but stay in the same place. Marcus called it the restless mind, the inability to be content with what is. The more you chase appearances, the further you drift from reality. And the cost is not only financial, it's spiritual. Every purchase made for the sake of validation is a silent confession. I care more about how they see me than who I am. That is the first link in the chain of slavery. The average household now carries nearly $8,000 in credit card debt, most of it not from necessity, but from impulse. The Romans called this luxuria, luxury that leads to decay. Marcus might have looked at our spending habits and whispered, you have power over your mind, not outside events. And perhaps he would add, you have power over your spending, not over their opinions. There's an old story about the philosopher Diogenes. A wealthy man mocked his simple clay cup. The next day, Diogenes threw it away. When asked why, he said, I realized I didn't even need that. That is freedom, not living without money, but living beyond its illusions. Here's a challenge Marcus would give you today. For the next 7 days before every purchase, pause and ask, does this serve my purpose or my pride? Write it down. You'll be shocked how often the answer is pride. Then remove one object from your life that owns you back, the car you bought to impress, the gadget you never use, the lifestyle you can't sustain. When you let it go, you'll feel the lightness the Stoics called peace. Minimalism isn't deprivation, it's liberation. We've mistaken appearance for achievement. We've learned to measure success by symbols, the house, the watch, the vacation, instead of mastery over self. Marcus would tell us, waste no more time arguing about what a good man should be. Be one. Translated for our age, don't post success, build it. Don't perform richness, practice discipline. True wealth begins where performance ends. When you stop living for their eyes, you finally start living for your own soul. The Romans built empires of stone and lost them to vanity. If we build our lives on the same foundation of pride, ours will crumble just as quickly. So the first warning from Marcus Aurelius is clear: do not live for appearances. Because the moment you do, your life becomes theater, not truth. But even if you escape the stage, a deeper trap still waits. It's the voice that whispers, you could have more. The craving that never sleeps. The thirst for next. Marcus called it insatiable desire. Seneca called it the endless thirst. We call it modern life. In the next chapter, Marcus Aurelius will confront that thirst and reveal why chasing more always leaves us with less. Part 2, chasing more instead of enough. We've stripped away the illusion of appearances. But even when we stop pretending to be rich, another shadow creeps in: the hunger for more. More success, more comfort, more possessions, more recognition. Marcus Aurelius warned that this endless craving, if left unguarded, can consume not only empires but souls. The Roman Empire had everything: gold marble armies, power. Yet Marcus looked across his vast dominion and saw one truth: no amount of more ever made anyone satisfied. In Meditations, he wrote, "Very little is needed to make a happy life. It is all within yourself and your way of thinking." But even emperors were not immune to the disease of desire. In the palaces of Rome, men fought not for survival, but for status. They already had enough, but enough was never enough. And is that our story too today? We've traded marble for metal, chariots for cars, scrolls for screens, but the sickness remains. We scroll through endless feeds of luxury and success, a digital parade of perfection, and without noticing, we begin to measure our worth through comparison. A study by Harvard Business Review found that 60% of people feel worse about their lives after just 10 minutes on social media. 10 minutes. Because we confuse exposure for experience, envy for ambition, and attention for achievement. Marcus saw this centuries before our age of algorithms. He who is not satisfied with a little, he wrote, will never be satisfied with much. We don't chase wealth because we need it. We chase it because the world whispers, you are not enough yet. So we run faster, work longer, buy more, and yet the finish line always moves further away. Psychologists call it the hedonic adaptation. You reach a goal, of promotion, a car, a new home, and happiness spikes for a moment, then fades. The craving returns. It's like pouring water into a cup with no bottom. Seneca once said, to be poor is not having little, it is wanting more. Marcus added, the soul becomes dyed with the color of its thoughts. If your thoughts are painted with lack, you will never see abundance. And here's the paradox: we live in the richest era of human history. More comfort, more opportunity, more abundance than Marcus could ever imagine. Yet anxiety and depression are at record highs. The average home holds more than 300,000 items, and still people feel they don't have enough. Seneca's question echoes through time. What difference does it make how much you have? What you miss, you never had. What you have, you soon will lose. The Stoics didn't reject wealth, they simply refused to worship it. For them, wealth was not measured by possessions, but by peace. Marcus understood something. Wall Street still hasn't. You can grow your fortune, but if you don't grow your discipline, you're still poor. The Stoic formula for contentment is simple: desire, less appreciate, more use wisely. You have power over your desires, not their objects, Marcus would say. Freedom begins there. When you stop chasing more, you finally begin to see enough. And enough is a form of wealth greed can never buy. Think of this: the billionaire who keeps chasing the next billion lives in the same prison as the man drowning in debt, because both are slaves to wanting. Studies show that once annual income passes about $75,000, additional money barely increases happiness. After that, only expenses grow, not joy. The Stoics knew this long before science did. They built empires of character, not consumption. There's a story often told in Stoic teachings. A wealthy merchant finds a fisherman resting beside his boat and says, "Why aren't you fishing more?" The fisherman replies, "I have enough for my family. I'm resting." The merchant laughs. "If you fish more, you can buy a bigger boat, catch more fish, build a fleet, become rich." The fisherman smiles and asks, "And then you can rest." The fisherman closes his eyes and says, "I'm already resting. That is true wealth, Peace without excess. Here's something you can try. For the next 7 days, write down everything you already have that you once prayed for. Every morning, read that list aloud. You'll realize that your life is richer than you think. Then choose one desire, just one, and pause it for a week. Skip the purchase, silence the craving. Not because you can't afford it, but because you want to prove to yourself that you control desire, not the other way around. Marcus practiced this every day. Though he ruled the largest empire on earth, he slept on a soldier's cot during war. He never sought more power, more luxury, or more recognition, because he knew the truth: a man's worth is no greater than the worth of his ambitions. When your ambition has no end, your peace never begins. Wealth grows not by addition, but by subtraction. The less you need, the richer you become. And yet there is still one currency more valuable than all the gold of Rome. You spend it every day, often without noticing. You can waste it, trade it, or invest it, but once it's gone, no emperor can bring it back. It's the one thing you can never earn again. Time. In the next chapter, Marcus Aurelius will remind us why time, not money, is the truest form of wealth, and why wasting it is the most expensive mistake of all. Part 3. Ignoring time as wealth. We chase money like it will last forever, but forget that the one currency we can never earn back is slipping through our fingers every second time. Marcus Aurelius once wrote, "You could leave life right now. Let that determine what you do and say and think." The emperor of Rome, surrounded by gold armies and power, understood something most people still don't: time. Not money is the real measure of wealth. In the grand halls of the empire, senators debated profits and conquests while Marcus pondered the quiet ticking of existence. Every coin, every victory, every possession, all of it could be regained. But one thing once spent was gone forever. He called it the one resource shared equally by kings and beggars, but valued by neither. Today, that truth echoes louder than ever. We are richer than any Roman could imagine, yet poorer in time than any generation before us. Studies show that the average person spends over 3 hours a day on their phone, 2 hours watching TV, and nearly 5 years of their life scrolling on social media. 5 years gone. Not invested, not experienced, not remembered, just gone. We tell ourselves we're too busy chasing money to slow down. But Marcus would ask busy for what? In Meditations he wrote, "Do every act of your life as though it were the last." The Stoic didn't mean to live recklessly. He meant to live intentionally, to be fully present, because awareness is the only true wealth of time. And yet we treat time like it's cheap. We waste hours in distractions but guard money like treasure. We forget that money can be regained, time never can. You can borrow money, but you can borrow another hour. You can invest capital, but you can't reinvest yesterday. Every moment we trade for something meaningless is a silent loss of fortune. Seneca warned, "It is not that we have a short time to live, but that we waste a lot of it." Imagine hearing that from a man who lived 2,000 years ago, before Netflix, before smartphones, before the endless noise of modern life. If he thought people wasted time, then what would he say now? The modern world is addicted to urgency. We wear busy like a badge of honor. But busyness without direction is chaos wearing a mask of progress. The Stoics measured wealth not in possessions but in peace, not in how much they earned, but in how little they wasted. Marcus believed every hour had moral weight. To spend time well was a sign of virtue. And here's the paradox: the more we value time, the wealthier we become. When you focus your time on what matters, learning, creating, serving, reflecting, you generate returns no market can match. But when you trade your hours for empty habits, you commit the quietest form of suicide. Let's look at the math. The average lifespan today is around 79 years. That's about 4,000 weeks. You sleep through one-third, work through another, and spend almost 7 years looking at screens. What remains? The slivers of quiet, the moments of connection, the breath between goals. That's where your life actually happens. Marcus understood this in his own way. Despite being emperor, he wrote his private reflections at dawn and midnight, not for glory, but for grounding. "Do not act as if you will live 10,000 years, he wrote. "Death hangs over you. While you live, while it is in your power, be good." To him, wasting time was worse than losing gold, because lost gold could be replaced. Lost time meant losing part of your soul. We often say time is money, but Marcus would disagree. He'd say money is nothing compared to time. Time doesn't just buy opportunity, it is opportunity. And the tragedy of modern life is that we sell our hours cheaply chasing coins while ignoring the clock. Think about it. How often do you check your phone first thing in the morning? How many mornings have you given away without even noticing that's wealth leaking away drop by drop? Here's a Stoic exercise to reclaim it. For the next 7 days, track your time like you would track your expenses. Every hour ask, is this an investment or a distraction? You'll be shocked by what you discover. Then choose one activity that drains your time but adds no meaning, endless scrolling, gossip over work, and cut it by half. Use that reclaimed time to do one thing. Marcus would call noble read, reflect, write, or simply walk without distraction. You'll feel the rarest profit of all peace. There's an old Roman saying, tempus fugit, time flies. But Marcus would add, yes, time flies, but you are the pilot. Each decision is a flight path. Each moment spent with purpose adds altitude. Each distraction brings a crash. And just like wealth, how you spend your time determines who you become. The things you think about, Marcus wrote, determine the quality of your mind. If your mind is consumed by noise, so will your life be. He lived as proof of this truth. Even while ruling an empire, he made time for philosophy, writing, reflection, and love. He knew power fades, gold rusts, and monuments crumble, but a well-spent hour can outlive an empire. So the next time you check the clock, don't ask how much time you have left, ask how much of yourself remains unspent. Because in the end, time is not taken from us. We give it away. And that brings us to Marcus's next warning. Because even when we learn to value time, we often fail to value calm. The market rises and falls, our emotions follow, and in the chaos, we lose clarity. In the next part, Marcus Aurelius will remind us that true wealth grows only where the mind stays still, and why letting emotions rule your decisions can quietly destroy everything you've built. Part 4, letting emotions rule decisions. The market rises and we feel unstoppable. The market falls and we panic. Our moods dance with numbers on a screen, and our peace becomes hostage to events we can't control. Marcus Aurelius would have seen this pattern long ago. He wrote, "You have power over your mind, not outside events. Realize this and you will find strength." It's strange, isn't it? We live in an age that worships logic, yet we make most of our financial choices through emotion. Fear drives us to sell when we should stay calm. Greed pushes us to buy when we should be patient. We call it strategy, but often it's just panic disguised as reason. Marcus understood that the greatest battle is not against the world, but against ourselves. He said, "The things you think about determine the quality of your mind. Your soul takes on the color of your thoughts. When your thoughts are ruled by fear or greed, your wealth becomes a reflection of chaos." Modern science agrees. Behavioral economists have found that over 80% of investors underperform the very markets they invest in, not because they lack knowledge, but because they can control emotion. In moments of fear, we sell low. In moments of greed, we buy high. Every reaction, every impulsive trade is a confession I have not mastered my mind. Marcus would have called this emotional slavery, because when emotion rules, reason serves. And when reason serves, fortune vanishes. In his journals, he reminded himself daily, if you are distressed by anything external, the pain is not due to the thing itself, but to your estimate of it, and this you have the power to revoke at any moment. He was training his mind the way a soldier trains for battle, through discipline, reflection, and self-control. Imagine if we did the same with money. Imagine if every time the stock market crashed, instead of panicking, we paused and whispered, "This too shall pass." Imagine if every time temptation whispered, "Buy now," we asked, "Is this desire or wisdom speaking?" The Stoics didn't reject emotion, they sought to master it. They believed calm was not indifference but power. Seneca wrote, "No man is free who is not master of himself." And Epictetus added, "It's not what happens to you, but how you react to it that matters." Think of how this applies today. A red line on a financial chart can trigger the same fear response as a wild animal in the forest. Our bodies can't tell the difference. The Stoic response: pause, breathe, step back. Because between impulse and action lies freedom. In 2020, during the market crash, billions were lost not from the economy collapsing, but from panic. Investors fled, emotions flared, and months later, those who stayed calm saw recovery. The lesson: markets recover faster than emotions. Marcus would have looked at that and said, be tolerant with others, but strict with yourself. Meaning, forgive the world for its chaos, but don't excuse your own reaction to it. Emotional wealth, the ability to stay centered in storms, is more valuable than any investment portfolio. Here's the Stoic formula: perception, judgment, action. We can't control perception, what happens to us, but we can control judgment, and that shapes our actions. Wealth is lost or preserved in that middle space. So how do we practice this? Start small. When your emotions flare, whether it's a purchase you must make or a decision that feels urgent, wait 24 hours. Most impulses die when starved of immediacy. Seneca once advised delay is the greatest remedy for anger. The same is true for desire. Here's a modern reflection: nearly 90% of regretful purchases happen under emotional stress. People buy not for need, but for relief from boredom, anxiety, loneliness, or fear. But relief isn't freedom, it's escape. The Stoic path is the opposite: not to escape emotion, but to observe it without obeying it. Marcus practiced this in the heat of battle. While others raged or feared, he remained still. That's why his soldiers followed him, not because he was loud, but because he was calm. Imagine bringing that same steadiness to your financial life. When everyone else is panicking, you stay patient. When everyone else is rushing, you wait. That's how true wealth grows: quietly, patiently, unshaken. Ask yourself this: how many of your financial choices come from logic and how many from emotion? If your spending, investing, or saving is guided by feeling rather than principle, then fortune is leading you, not the other way around. The Stoics taught a discipline called premeditatio malorum, the premeditation of misfortune. They visualized the worst-case scenario, not to suffer twice, but to prepare once. When you can calmly imagine loss, you strip fear of its power. When you accept impermanence, you gain control. Try it tonight. Sit for 5 minutes and imagine losing what you have, not to create fear, but to strengthen gratitude. Then picture yourself handling that loss with dignity, wisdom, and calm. That is Stoic wealth, emotional sovereignty. Marcus once wrote, "To bear trials with a calm mind robs misfortune of its strength." The same is true of money. To stay calm in uncertainty is to rob the market, the chaos, and the crowd of their control over you. Wealth grows where discipline meets patience. Every decision made in stillness multiplies its worth. Every decision made in emotion drains it. Calm is compound interest for the soul. And so the fourth warning of Marcus Aurelius is this: do not let emotion rule reason. For when you master your reactions, you master your results. But another danger still lurks, one that enslaved even the Romans. The illusion that debt can buy happiness, that borrowing can fill emptiness. It begins with pleasure and ends with chains. In the next chapter, Marcus Aurelius warns us about the fifth great mistake: borrowing for pleasure, and reveals how debt, both financial and emotional, quietly destroys freedom from within. Part 5: Borrowing for Pleasure. The Roman Empire once glittered with luxury: marble halls, golden statues, lavish banquets. But behind that beauty, debt was quietly spreading like a shadow. Senators borrowed to impress each other. Generals borrowed to fund campaigns. Even cities borrowed to build monuments. Rome fell not just from war, but from excess. Marcus Aurelius saw it coming. He wrote, "Wealth consists not in having great possessions, but in having few wants." He understood that debt is not simply a number, it is a chain. A soft chain, invisible at first, until one day it tightens around your freedom. The Stoics saw debt not as a financial problem, but a moral one. The symptom of a restless mind that cannot wait, cannot restrain, cannot be still. 2,000 years later, the same disease remains. We borrow for comfort, for pleasure, for image, anything to silence the discomfort of wanting. But every borrowed dollar is a small surrender of freedom. Every loan for a luxury is a quiet admission: I am willing to pay tomorrow for what I cannot control today. A 2024 study by Forbes found that the average American now carries over $6,500 in credit card debt. That's not emergency spending, that's consumption. Fast food, fashion, gadgets, vacations. We're not borrowing to live, we're borrowing to feel alive. And that, Marcus would say, is slavery dressed in gold. He warned it is not death that a man should fear, but never beginning to live. Yet how many live chained to payments, working jobs, they hate to afford things they don't need, just to impress people they barely know. The Stoics called this voluntary servitude, the slow erosion of freedom by desire. Seneca once wrote to his student Lucilius, "The greatest wealth is a poverty of desires." He meant that every time you say no to unnecessary pleasure, you buy back a piece of your soul. Because debt isn't just financial, it's emotional. It burdens your mind, steals your sleep, and poisons your peace. Imagine this: every time you swipe a card, you are borrowing not just money, but time, future hours of your life that you must later trade back to repay it. Debt is not paid in dollars, it's paid in days. And time, as Marcus reminded us, is the only wealth you can never reclaim. In Rome, debt was public shame. Debtors were paraded through the streets, heads bowed. Today, the chains are digital, invisible, silent, but the humiliation is the same. The anxiety of bills, the fear of phone calls, the quiet panic at the end of every month. It's a prison built from comfort. Marcus would say, a man is free when he desires nothing he cannot command. Freedom is not about having everything, it's about needing little enough that nothing owns you. True luxury is the ability to sleep without worry, but pleasure whispers sweetly. It promises happiness now and hides the price until later. Buy now, pay later. The modern motto of slavery. You don't feel the weight until it's too late. And once the pleasure fades, the pain of payment remains longer, sharper, and colder. There's a parable about a young Roman who asked a philosopher how to live freely. The old man handed him a golden goblet and said, "Every sip will bring you joy, but when the cup is empty, your freedom will belong to it." The youth drank greedily. When it was gone, the philosopher said, "Now spend your life refilling what can never stay full." That's debt, the illusion of satisfaction that drains forever. Modern finance calls it lifestyle inflation. You earn more, you spend more, you borrow more, the treadmill never stops. Marcus would call it mental poverty, the inability to find peace and simplicity. The things you think about, he wrote, determine the quality of your mind. If your mind is chained to payment reminders and credit limits, your life becomes a ledger of anxiety. Here's the truth no one teaches in school: debt is a time machine. It drags future happiness into the present, then sends present pain into the future. The Stoic path reverses that. You endure short discomfort, now restraint, patience, discipline, and enjoy long peace later. Here's your practice for the week. Write down everything you owe. Not just money, time debts, emotional debts, energy debts. Then ask, which of these did I create chasing pleasure? When you see how often joy turns into burden, you'll begin to crave freedom more than comfort. Next, choose one area to simplify. Cancel one unnecessary subscription, delay one purchase, downsize one luxury. The goal is not punishment, it's liberation. Because every time you resist temptation, you reclaim ownership of your life. The Stoics weren't against pleasure. They simply refused to be owned by it. Seneca said, "He who is enslaved to his passions is a worse slave than he who is bought and sold." That's why Marcus, despite ruling an empire, lived modestly. His robes were plain, his meals simple. He knew abundance without wisdom leads only to ruin. And he wasn't wrong. Historians now agree that the fall of Rome was fueled as much by debt and decadence as by war. The empire consumed itself from the inside, a cautionary tale written in stone. Debt destroys more than wealth, it destroys willpower. It weakens nations, families, and character. Every empire that forgets restraint collapses. Every person who forgets it suffers the same fate. But there is a way back. The Stoic solution is not guilt, it's clarity. Awareness breaks the spell of excess. When you see debt for what it is, a theft of future peace, desire begins to lose its power. Marcus would remind you, the impediment to action advances action. What stands in the way becomes the way. If debt stands in your way, let it become your teacher. Learn from it, rise from it. Build discipline where indulgence once lived. Because the goal of Stoicism is not poverty, it's freedom. To owe nothing, to desire little, to need only what aligns with virtue that is true wealth. So the fifth warning of Marcus Aurelius is clear. Do not borrow for pleasure. Pleasure fades. Debt remains. Spend less to live more. Seek freedom over luxury. And as Marcus warned his generals, no man loses more than the one who wastes his peace. But peace has another enemy, Not debt, not desire, but forgetfulness. For even when you have enough, you forget to be grateful. And that is the beginning of spiritual poverty. In the next chapter, Marcus Aurelius will remind us of the sixth great mistake, neglecting gratitude, and how remembering what you already have can make you wealthier than kings. Part 6, Neglecting Gratitude. Gratitude. It's the simplest virtue and the rarest form of wealth. Marcus Aurelius began many of his mornings by reminding himself of what he already had. When you arise in the morning, he wrote, think of what a precious privilege it is to be alive, to breathe, to think, to enjoy, to love. For the emperor of Rome, gratitude wasn't poetry, it was armor, because the ungrateful mind is the poorest mind of all. He ruled armies, nations, and vast lands, yet his journals never boasted of gold or glory. He wrote instead about perspective, the quiet wealth found in simplicity. Very little is needed to make a happy life. He said it is all within yourself, in your way of thinking. But in our modern age, that wisdom is fading. We live in a world addicted to comparison, where gratitude feels like a luxury and dissatisfaction is a default setting. We scroll through other people's highlight reels, measuring our own worth in pixels and possessions, and the more we see, the less we appreciate. A study from Harvard University found that people who practice gratitude daily reported a 25% increase in life satisfaction and slept better, worried less, and earned more over time. Gratitude, it turns out, doesn't just change mood, it changes outcome. But here's the irony: the richer we become in material comfort, the poorer we grow in gratitude. We're surrounded by abundance, yet blinded by desire. We have food, warmth, safety, and connection, things emperors once prayed for, and still we call it not enough. Marcus would look at us and whisper, "You are anxious because you forget that you already possess what you seek." The Stoics saw gratitude not as emotion, but as discipline. It's a practice of perception to see fortune where others see lack. Seneca wrote, "He who is ungrateful has eyes and sees not." To the Stoic, gratitude was a kind of vision, the ability to notice blessings that excess makes invisible. Imagine Marcus walking through the chaos of Rome, soldiers shouting, merchants haggling, citizens begging, and yet in his quiet journal he writes of peace, of purpose, of appreciation. Because gratitude was his fortress in a collapsing world. He didn't deny suffering, he simply refused to let it steal his sight. Today we wake up and see what's missing before we see what's present. The mind races toward more success, more wealth, more approval, forgetting that the path to contentment runs backward, not forward. Gratitude brings you back to now, and now is the only place peace can live. Think about it. What's the point of chasing wealth if you could enjoy what you already have? The Stoics would say, the man who has enough is not the one who owns much, but the one who needs little. Yet we train ourselves to always need more, another goal, another gadget, another validation. It's an endless hunger that turns even paradise into poverty. Gratitude breaks that spell. It turns ordinary moments into treasures. The sound of laughter, the warmth of sunlight, the taste of simple food. These are riches the ungrateful can never see. Marcus wrote, "The things you take for granted, others are praying for." He knew that appreciation multiplies value without adding cost. But gratitude requires awareness, and awareness requires slowing down. When was the last time you stopped long enough to really see your life? Not your goals, not your plans, but the simple gifts already surrounding you. We move so fast, chasing tomorrow, that we trample today. Here's a Stoic practice for reclaiming your wealth of gratitude. Each morning before touching your phone, write down 3 things you already have that make your life meaningful. Not big things, small ones. The morning light through your window, a friend who listens, the strength to keep going. Then before bed, review them again. Marcus called this book Ending the Soul, beginning and ending the day with awareness. Over time, you'll notice something incredible. Your desires will shrink, your patience will grow, and the things that once seemed urgent will feel lighter. Because gratitude doesn't just fill your heart, it quiets your hunger. Modern research proves it. Neuroscientists have found that consistent gratitude practice rewires the brain, increasing serotonin and dopamine levels, the same chemicals linked to joy and motivation. Gratitude literally teaches your brain how to be wealthy without needing more. But gratitude is fragile. Neglect it long enough and envy takes its place. And envy, Marcus warned, is a kind of self-inflicted blindness. The happiness of those who envy, he wrote, is only in the misery of others. It's poison disguised as ambition. Gratitude, by contrast, is clarity, the ability to celebrate what is without mourning what isn't. There's a reason the Stoics prize simplicity. The fewer distractions you have, the more clearly you can see what matters. The modern world tells us to chase growth, expansion, accumulation. The Stoics remind us to prune, refine, reduce. Because the richest tree is not the one with the most branches, it's the one that bears fruit. Try this reflection: if you lost everything you own today, what would you miss most? That list is your real wealth. Guard it, honor it, and don't wait to lose it to appreciate it. Marcus believed gratitude was the foundation of virtue because only the grateful can act with humility. Without gratitude, wealth becomes arrogance. With it, even poverty feels abundant. The universe, he wrote, is change. Our life is what our thoughts make it. Gratitude transforms change into grace. So the sixth warning of Marcus Aurelius is this: do not neglect gratitude. Because ungrateful wealth is poverty in disguise. The man who has everything but appreciation owns nothing that lasts. In the end, gratitude is not about saying thank you, it's about seeing clearly. It's about remembering that every breath, every moment, every sunrise is borrowed time. And that leads to Marcus's final warning, the greatest mistake of all. For even when you master your spending, your patience, your emotions, and your gratitude, you may still lose yourself. Because when wealth becomes your purpose, your soul becomes its servant. In the final chapter, Marcus Aurelius reveals the seventh mistake, forgetting purpose, and how fortune without meaning leads even the richest lives to ruin. Part 7, Forgetting Purpose. In the final years of his life, Marcus Aurelius sat beneath the dim light of an oil lamp, surrounded not by gold or soldiers, but by silence. Outside, the empire was trembling. Enemies gathered at its borders. Friends betrayed one another for power. And yet the emperor's last writings weren't about war, wealth, or legacy. They were about meaning. He wrote, "A man's true delight is to do the things he was made for." And in those few words, he captured the final truth of wealth. Purpose is the only investment that never loses value. For years, Marcus watched Rome devour itself in pursuit of fortune. Senators hoarded gold, merchants cheated customers, generals chased glory. They believed purpose could be bought, that meaning could be minted like coins. But he knew better. He had seen too many powerful men die empty. What we do now, he said, echoes in eternity. And yet most men spend eternity chasing what will never echo. 2,000 years later, the same tragedy repeats. We build careers without calling, earn fortunes without fulfillment, and collect possessions that outlive our peace. We chase the illusion of success, money, without meaning, growth, without direction, movement, without purpose. But Marcus warned, if you are doing what is not in harmony with your nature, you are wasting your life. You can own the world and still be poor in soul. Because purpose, not prosperity, is what makes a life rich. Modern research agrees. Studies from Yale University show that people who identify a clear sense of purpose live on average 7 years longer and report far higher levels of happiness and resilience. Purpose doesn't just add meaning, it adds life. And yet we drift. We work jobs that drain us, chase goals that others chose for us, and mistake motion for progress. We wake up each day with no why, only what next. Marcus would call that spiritual bankruptcy, when the calendar is full, but the heart is empty. He believed fortune must serve virtue, not the other way around. Wealth, he said, is not evil in itself, but when it masters the man, it corrupts him. Purpose is the compass that keeps wealth from becoming an idol. Without it, every success feels hollow, every milestone fleeting. Think of the billionaires who confess they feel no joy, the celebrities who drown in abundance yet whisper of emptiness. They have everything except a reason. They live in mansions built on sand. The Stoics understood that purpose isn't found in comfort, but in contribution. The question was never, how much can I earn? It was always, how much good can I do? Marcus measured value not by profit, but by principle. Waste no more time arguing about what a good man should be, he wrote. Be one. Purpose is wealth of the soul. It's the force that turns labor into legacy and money into meaning. When you forget your purpose, your wealth owns you. But when you remember it, your wealth becomes a tool for service, for creation, for impact. Here's the paradox: we spend our lives trying to find purpose, when in truth we're meant to live it. You don't discover meaning by thinking about it. You discover it by doing what aligns with your values, even when no one is watching. Ask yourself this. If all your money vanished tomorrow, what part of your life would still feel rich? That's your purpose. The thing you do without payment, the mission that stirs you even when no one notices. Marcus would tell you to start there, to anchor your life not in wealth, but in wisdom. Because the one who chases money loses both money and meaning. The one who chases purpose gains both. There's a story told of a Roman craftsman who built statues for temples. One day the emperor asked him why he carved the back of the statues with the same care as the front, even though no one would ever see them. The craftsman replied, "The gods will see. That is purpose doing your work with excellence even when unseen, because the act itself is sacred. Purpose gives your effort dignity, your discipline direction, and your wealth meaning. Without it, even success feels heavy. With it, even struggle feels worthwhile." Here's your Stoic reflection for this final lesson. Take a sheet of paper and at the top write, "What was I made for?" Then below it list 3 things that give you energy instead of draining it. 3 things that make you forget the clock. 3 ways you can serve others with your strengths. That's your compass. Follow it. And when you earn money, let it flow through that purpose. If your wealth feeds your virtue, it multiplies. If it feeds your ego, it dies. The Stoics saw fortune as a servant, never a master. Marcus lived by that rule until his final breath. He could have died as a ruler, instead he died as a philosopher. His empire crumbled, his riches scattered his name, weathered by centuries, and yet his words still lead us. Because purpose outlives fortune, and that is the ultimate lesson. Wealth fades, fame fades, even empires fall, but purpose endures. It is the one investment guaranteed to yield peace. So the final warning of Marcus Aurelius is this: do not forget your purpose. For the man who loses purpose, no amount of money can save him. But the one who lives with purpose, even in poverty, can never truly be poor. And if Marcus were alive today, he would look at the chaos of our world, the endless noise, the glittering distractions, and simply say, remember why you began. Remember who you are, and let your wealth serve your soul, not silence it. Because in the end, it's not what you earn that matters, it's what you became while earning it. The Stoics never said money is evil, only that without wisdom, it becomes your master. Marcus Aurelius taught that real wealth is not what fills your hand, but what strengthens your mind. Because when you rule your thoughts, you rule your world. If these lessons awaken something in you, a desire to grow, to live with more purpose, more peace, more power, then don't let it fade. Continue your journey of Stoic mastery and modern success. Subscribe now to Making Life Better, a place where ancient philosophy meets the modern world, where every story, every insight, every reflection helps you build the greatest empire of all yourself. Remember, fortune fades, purpose endures, wisdom compounds. So stay curious, stay disciplined, and keep learning how to rule not an empire, but your own life.